Hi, everybody. Ciao. Thanks for coming to my coffee chat today. I'm Sierra. I'm the founder of Creative Edge Travel, and we help people experience Italy's far-flung places, those fading traditions, and the phenomenal nature through genuine connection with the local people. We're small group trips, which is 7 people max, and also private custom trips. And today we are having our live coffee chat, which we do at 2 p.m. Eastern time. So thanks for joining. Give me a wave, give me a thumbs up in the comments if you're tuning in. I'm just going to set up my page here so that I can hopefully see your comments. Okay, awesome. So now I can see you guys as you write into me. Okay, so hello again. I'm going to jump in here. The topic today is how to rent a car in Italy. And I wanted to do this topic because I personally felt so intimidated by the idea of renting a car in a foreign country. I would not even consider it until someone close to me that had experience doing it kind of urged me to consider it and to be more bold and courageous and go after it. So there are definitely pros and cons. And I found that once I got used to it, I actually really enjoyed kind of embracing my inner Italiana is what I would call it. So that kind of confidence on the road, you have to be a little bit more aggressive with your driving. And after you get used to it, it becomes kind of fun. So hi, Coach Payne. Hi, Lady Naomi. Thank you for coming. Hi, Mara. All right, so let's start with some pros and cons to renting a car in Italy. So first of all, the most obvious one is that it's stressful. It's stressful when you first start driving the car. It's probably a vehicle that you maybe have never driven, so you have to get used to it. Definitely recommend before you take off from the car rental place that you know how to turn on your lights, turn on your windshield wipers, and kind of get used to all the gears. And it's stressful when you get out on the road, especially if you pick it up in a city. You've got to navigate from the city onto the main highway. But luckily, they do try to make the car rental places pretty close to a main highway so that it's not too complicated to get on your way. So it will be stressful. Also, will be stressful when you are parking. So I always try to look ahead of time at the map for where I'm going so that I can eliminate that stress. I get stressed out about parking because I grew up in the US in a small town. We never even had to pay for parking where I grew up, much less do parallel parking and then worrying about what hours you can be there and where to pay. And, so that was stressful for me starting out. But now I've learned, and I always take a second to look ahead at my destination and figure out, okay, where is the main parking lot? So in Italy, a lot of the small old villages will have a parking lot kind of right outside of the historic center. So you kind of want to just see, okay, where is the parking lot for that place? Or where can I park right outside of the historic center where I can have more space and not be trying to parallel park on a tiny cobblestone road in the middle of a village. And then another con is that you have to, it's an additional expense, right? You're going to have to pay for the car, you'll pay for tolls and parking, and gas is more expensive in Italy. So all of that adds up. Another negative side of renting a car is that you have to think about the ZTL. So that's Zona Traffico Limitato, so limited traffic zone. And those are areas that they have marked off in historic centers of big cities as well as small cities where your cars are not allowed to go. Locals will be able to drive through and certain people can drive through, but you as a tourist, you have to watch for those signs that say Zona Traffico Limitato, ZTL. And that way you will be able to know if you're allowed to go forward or not. There are some resources on look up ahead of time where the ZTLs are so that you know where you won't be able to enter. But usually you'll notice that the roads are starting to get narrower, there are more people around you because you're getting into the center. So you'll have a sense that that's coming up anyway. And usually you'll see the sign, but if you have any doubts about it, you can just roll down your window and ask a local walking by, like, hey, am I allowed to enter here? Or how can I turn around? So having to navigate that is a little bit of a headache, because if you do accidentally enter ZTL, you will have to pay a fine. So they take a picture of your license plate and send a bill either directly to you or to your car rental agency that forwards the bill to you. So those are a few of the headaches related to renting a car in Italy. But all of that is handleable, right? Like, you can handle that. You can manage it if you take it one step at a time. I recommend don't let all those little things become this like fear fog that keeps you from doing this, from renting a car, if it's a good fit for you. So if you're trying to get off the beaten path and you really want to have an immersive journey where you get to have more control of your itinerary and the way you spend your time, then you definitely want to keep listening and want to find ways to manage your stress level and find ways that you can just take it one step at a time and get through. If I can do it, I promise you can do it. I was the most intimidated person in the world by the idea of renting a car in Italy. So if I can do it, I promise you can do it. So let's dive into some of the pros of renting a car in Italy. So first of all, as I already mentioned, you will have ultimate freedom. So you can go wherever you want. You can choose accommodations that are in the countryside and then take day trips out all over. It gives you so many more options. You can also easily reach those far-flung villages, so you can really get off the beaten path and have experiences that really feel like your own, because you will have veered away from where most of the tourists are going. And that allows you to have such a more authentic experience and meet local people and really have an experience that's meaningful. You will also have your sense of discovery will just be at a peak, right? This sense of just like, wow, stopping to see things along the road, like it'll feel more spontaneous, and there will be a surprise around every corner. I remember when I was scouting in an area of northern Tuscany called Garfagnana. It's beautiful. There's hardly anyone there, hardly any tourists there. And it's just a bunch of little tiny, gorgeous villages. Hi, Dakota. Thanks for coming. Hey, guys. Thank you all for coming. So as I was scouting this area, I would just I would hop in my car in the morning and hit the road. I would have a general idea of a couple of different villages I would want to pass by. And on the way, I would stop and see like a beautiful old mill from the 1400s on a river, just in the countryside, like hardly any cars going by at all. I could just pull off the road and check out this amazing old crumbling mill on this river. And there are just so many beautiful things like that you discover when you rent a car. And then logistically, it's a great pro because you will save so much time. So when I first started Creative Edge Travel, I was, and it still am, on a shoestring budget, but I was even more so then. And I would try to visit all these places using public transportation. So, you know, our company has always been focused on off the beaten path places. So even from the beginning, I was trying to visit like that farm that is, or I remember going to a village to visit an artisan that was like 2 hours away. It was like 3 bus rides and a train ride. I remember that. Yeah, so I would have to wait for public transportation, which in Italy is not as reliable. And I would end up wasting a lot of time for the sake of saving money. And at a certain point in your life, it makes sense. But at a certain point, it becomes more worth it to save yourself the time and the stress and just go ahead and get yourself a rental car so that you don't have to worry about that. And you can take advantage of the time that you have. We don't all have a lot of vacation time, so let's make the most of it by renting a car. Okay, so when to rent your car. You want to rent your car well in advance, as far in advance as you can. As soon as you know your travel dates and your arrival and departure, you don't even have to have everything else on your itinerary figured out yet. As long as you know where you're flying into and where you're flying out to, that's the places that you can rent your car to and from. And the earlier that you rent your car, the better price that you will find. As it gets closer to the time that you're traveling, it's going to be, there will be a higher demand for cars, and especially if you need to rent an automatic like Miss America right here. I definitely never learned how to drive a manual, and I really, really regret it, because as you'll find out in a second, the prices for renting an automatic compared to a manual is about twice as much. So if you're renting an automatic, definitely rent well in advance. So now, where to rent? You'll rent your car online. There are a lot of different sites. I like to use Auto Europe because it will compare a lot of different sites at the same time and tell you quickly which is the best price. And sometimes after I find out what the best price is, I'll go to those other sites and just check out if it's any cheaper on their websites. You can do a little cross research. So there's also Europcar. There's places that we have also here in the US, such as Hertz. So if you prefer to rent from something that you're more familiar with, then you can rent from a company that we have in the US as well, just for familiarity. Be careful when you're comparing these companies. I always try to read the reviews of these car rental companies, especially if it's one I haven't really heard of before. I think no matter what, you will find a lot of negative reviews, just because anyone that has to go through any kind of issue with having rented a car and having had it damaged or had experienced theft or whatever it is, some companies will have resolved it well, and some will have hit and miss. So it's going to be hard to find a car rental company that has all glowing reviews. So just kind of take it with a grain of salt, but do definitely look at the reviews just so you can get a sense of what people think of the company. Okay, and now we're going to talk about what does it cost to rent a car in Italy. So I did a quick search this morning just to give you an idea of like current rates. So for May 8th through 15th, it is, Social on Safari says, I hate dealing with car rental companies. Yes, I agree. They are frustrating. I luckily have never had to deal with anything bad happening, knock on wood, but I've heard horror stories, so you definitely want to make sure you have insurance covered. Okay, so I did a quick search, May 8th through 15th, so that's a Saturday to a Saturday, 1 week car rental next year, from the Rome airport and then dropping off at the Rome airport. So a manual economy car, so just a regular like 4-door car. I don't know. I'm not a big car person. There's a term for that kind of car, compact cars maybe. But anyway, it costs $264. And then if I extended that to 2 weeks, it was $523. And that's a manual car. Compared to an automatic economy car for 1 week was $404. And then for 2 weeks, it was $725. So you can see the manual car for 1 week was $264, and the automatic car for one week was $404. So you can see how much more expensive it gets when you are like me and need an automatic. I really want to learn one day how to drive a manual so I can save money when I travel. And then another interesting thing that happened is when I searched for a 2-week rental for an automatic, the cheapest for like an economy car was $725. But it was weird because there was also a family size car rental that was only $361, which was cheaper than the best price for 1 week. doesn't really make sense. So there are some glitches like that in there that you can find. So just play with the dates and numbers a little bit and see if you can find something like that. So 361 for a family vehicle for 2 weeks. And I looked it up. It's an Audi A5 Sportback or similar. And actually just looks like I was imagining it being like a big van or something, but it wasn't even an SUV. So that's pretty cool. That's a really good deal. Okay, so now I would like to share some tips with you about renting a car in Italy. So first of all, you will need an international driver's permit. Whoever's going to be driving the car will need an international driver's permit, and you can get those from AAA. So if you're American and you need an international driver's permit, you can just go to your nearest AAA. You just walk in and fill out a couple of pages of paperwork. They take your passport photo, or you can bring a passport photo with you, and then they give you your international driver's permit. And they used to only be good for 1 year, and I think they've extended it to 2 or 3 years. Can't remember how long. And I think it's cost around $30, so it's not too bad. When you are renting your car, don't rent a GPS to go along with it, because it's very expensive. And instead you can just be prepared to use your smartphone. And you don't even need data. All you need to do is download Google Maps offline. So on your Google Maps app, you have an option to download a map so that you can access it offline. It will still give you directions, and you can use it just like you would if you had data and were using a live GPS. I think it will like have traffic since it will be offline, but you'll directions and a lot of that way. So you can just, on the map, you'll select the area of the map that you want to download, and it'll save that, and you're good to go. Another very important thing that you need to do is to call your credit card companies to find out if they offer car rental insurance. So a lot of credit card companies will include some type of protection for car rentals. Some of them do not. So you want to find out if they do and what their coverage is, how much they cover. So if your credit card company does offer enough coverage, then you will purchase the rental using that card, and that way you will be covered and have that insurance. And then you would need to decline the insurance that the car rental company will offer you when you're picking up. Another note, they will always push you to get the insurance. So just be firm in where you stand, be firm, just know ahead of time so that you're not being swayed this way or that. I forgot what I was gonna say. Yeah, so they'll just be really adamant about you adding the car insurance. So just know already whether you need it or not. And if your if your credit card companies do not offer enough coverage for you, then you want to accept the insurance that the car company will offer you. So sometimes it's actually included in the rate that you paid online, so make sure you note that as well. I will say I've never had a really great experience with car rental companies in Italy with the staff. They're kind of notoriously not very nice. Sometimes you get a nice one and sometimes you don't. So definitely just know ahead of time, figure it out before you go. Don't get to the desk and say like, oh, do I want insurance or do I not? If you're questioning it, just go ahead and get it, because it means you didn't do your research to figure out what you have already and what you need. So yeah. Another tip, when you get to the car rental desk, they usually will have you take a number and wait in line. And usually there's a long line. It depends on where you're picking up from and the time and all of that. But I usually plan to get there pretty early, earlier than my pickup time. I would probably try to get there an hour earlier and take a number, because you will be waiting a long time. I remember getting there on time once and ended up waiting like 3 hours to get my car. Of course, it's not always like that, but if that's gonna set you back from getting to other appointments that you have, then you definitely want to plan for that. And maybe don't make any appointments on the day that you pick up your car. Very important. Take pictures of your car. Once they give you your car, take pictures of it before you get in it and do anything. You want to take pictures of any dents, any scratches, any little tiny marks on the car. Because when you bring the car back, they'll do an inspection, and if they didn't have a certain scratch already written down in their records, then they're going to say that you damaged the car and you will have to pay for it. So you want to have proof to say, no, I have the photo of this. This was taken the day that I picked it up, and you can see that it was already there. To be extra safe, I would also take pictures when I'm dropping it off. Most people are not, I believe that I choose to believe in the good of all people over the bad, but it could happen that someone could say like, okay, you're all set. And then in reality, they actually marked that you damaged the car and you get a bill later, you know? So you just want to protect yourself and take pictures when you drop it off as well, so that you can show the before and after pictures. And I hold on to those for a few months after the car rental, just to be sure. And when you're using the car, make sure you hide all your belongings. Theft is a really common crime in Italy. I personally have never had to deal with any kind of theft issues, and I've been traveling in Italy for a really long time, but I might just be really lucky. So definitely try to protect yourself by not parking in sketchy areas, and locking your doors, of course, keeping the windows rolled up, of course, and hiding all belongings in the car. So you don't want them to be able to see any jacket, or maybe just one jacket on a chair would be okay, but definitely don't make it look like there might be something under it or anything like that. And I find in Europe, the back of the car will often have like a cover that you can pull out, and that way nobody can see what's in there anyway. But yeah, just try to take all your belongings with you when you are leaving your car. And also, sometimes they will give you a different car than you actually rented online, and usually they have to give you one that's as good or better. It has happened to me that I got to the counter and they're like, oh, you know, you rented a super special car. And I'm like, wait, no, I didn't. I was so scared they were going to charge me for some like sports car that I wouldn't know how to drive. But actually they just upgraded me to a convertible Fiat, and it was the best time. I had so much fun driving around Italy in the summertime with the top down. It was beautiful. But it has also happened to me that they gave me a bigger car. And since that experience, I have learned to not accept it, to try to push them to get me the car that I asked for. Because if you have a bigger car, if you have more people and you actually like the space, then yeah, it's nice to have the extra space. But if it's just you and one other person and you don't really need the extra space, I would just ask them, are you sure you don't have a whatever compact car I rented? I really need that. I'm not comfortable driving a bigger one. They'll take another look and they'll find something for you usually. But the bigger ones become really difficult to park and just more difficult to maneuver around Italy. Okay, so that's all that I have for how to rent a car in Italy. I hope I helps you get more comfortable with the idea of renting a car. Does anyone have any questions? You can drop me a comment and I'll answer. So Kari says, do you have any suggestions for long-term 1 to 3 month car rental agencies? That's a really good question. I know that I've looked into that for myself before, but it was just too expensive. I know that there are sites where you can rent camper vans, but that's not the same thing. Don't know about long-term car rental. Trying to pull something up in my brain, but I think I had looked into it for myself and it was just too expensive for that long a time. But I would think it would be, you would need to find more local suggestions from locals, because those companies would be targeting locals more so than tourists probably. So you might want to search in Italian. I don't know if you are Italian, your last name looks Italian. Sacomano. Yeah, but anyway, sorry I can't be more help with long-term car rentals, but I would be happy to ask my friends if you need some help with that. So just send me a message. And Alessandro says, pay attention to speed cameras, autovelox. Yes, thank you, Alessandro. That's a good point as well. So along the highways in Italy, they have speed cameras. So you might not know that anyone is, in the US, we usually watch out for cops and then we slow down if there are cops. In Italy, they know where the speed cameras are and they slow down around those areas. But as a tourist, you won't know that it's coming up. Sometimes they have a camera or a sign telling you that it's coming up, but sometimes they don't. So yeah, you have to watch out for where cameras might be and just try to stick to the speed limit. Also, a lot of people will pass you, and a lot of them will like to take risks. They're more used to it there. So sometimes you just have to like slow yourself down and let them get around you. And sometimes you will find your inner Italiana and decide to pass someone as well. Okay, so if there aren't any other questions, thank you guys for coming to this coffee chat. And if you have any more questions, just drop them in the comments. I'll be happy to answer them in the comments later. And if you're watching this on Facebook and you are curious about my background, there is a link in the description to 10 free virtual Zoom backgrounds. These are all beautiful photos that I've taken in the smaller towns and hidden areas of Italy. And you can upload them onto Zoom and use them as a background in your meetings. It's very easy to do, and the directions are at that link. So you can download those, and we'll see you guys next week. Thank you. Ciao.